Hey, Dan Passarelli here. How are you on this glorious Friday afternoon? Ready for the weekend? I know I am. Well, let's do a wrap up here, and I've got some interesting stuff to talk about in regard to Palantir. So the S&P 500 closed just about completely flat today because there wasn't too much going on. I mean, inflation was more tame than usual, which would normally be bullish for the market. But this overcast of the tariff thing is, well, that's kind of bearish for the market. So neither the bulls nor the bears won out. And I think people are just scratching their heads. But here's something I'm scratching my head about. And that is the pretty sharp rise in Palantir stock today, symbol PLTR. Palantir was up 7.7% today to a new all-time high, closing on just about its high of the day here. Why? Well, it's an interesting story. See, there were reports that the Trump administration has expanded the company's work across the federal governments in recent months. Okay, so let's talk about that. What does that mean? So Palantir has secured more than 113 million in contracts just recently. This does not include the 795 million Department of Defense contract that was awarded last week. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but one of the founders of Palantir, guy named Peter Thiel, who is a pretty interesting cat, pretty polarizing cat in a lot of ways. You should look that fella up if you're looking for something interesting to read. Now, he and Trump were pretty good buddies. In fact, he was one of the people who was advising him in his first term. He was advising Trump in his first term. He ended up leaving at some point during Trump's first term. But they go way, way back. And now that Trump's in office again, he's giving him some business, right? Giving him some pretty good government business. Now, what does Palantir do? Well, basically, they take people's information and they package it just right and they sell it to companies and governments. I know, sounds like pretty dirty business, but hey, that's what Facebook does, all the social network people. But that's not the really interesting part. The really interesting part is what really is the big deal about this. Now, you might say, okay, $900 million, almost $1 billion of more business. Geez, that's huge. Is it though? This is not like $900 million a year. What they're doing is they're raising the ceiling of what the agency is allowed to spend at Palantir. They just gave a bigger chunk of money that says, hey, you can buy the data or whatever they got to purchase for the Department of Defense. They just gave them a bigger pile of cash to spend if they need it. But it's not annual or anything. It's kind of like it's the budget. And when that's out, that's out. So let's just round it to $1 billion. Palantir has 2.36 billion shares outstanding. And when it comes to stock options and convertible securities, that ends up diluted to 2.55 billion shares. So $1 billion, not even $1 billion, $900 million. I mean, we're talking like that's 45 cents a share, not in recurring, potentially in profit this year. Well, that's not profit, that's revenue. I'm sure they have expenses for gathering all the data on every single person in the United States, not to mention the pretty smart people they have to hire. How does 45 cents a share equate to a rise in stock price of $9.46 a share? That doesn't make any sense at all. Now, that goes on top of what Alan Greenspan would have called irrational exuberance of a price to earnings ratio in Palantir of 573. Let's just round it, 573. Not to mention a price to book ratio of 57. I mean, it's crazy. If you look at their cash flow just from their operations and you divide the price into that, they only make like 0.62% based on the cash flow that they get. Even with these deals and even with the more sweetheart deal, government spending that the administration is giving to Peter Thiel at Palantir, where are these numbers coming from? It doesn't make any sense at all. So I let my covered call get assigned in Palantir a couple of weeks ago. And even though it's made new highs since then, I still stand by that decision. Palantir, in my opinion, is a massively, massively overpriced stock. You got some homework to do this weekend if you're holding Palantir stock. And hey, if you agree or if you disagree, feel free to please leave a comment. I hope that helps. This is Dan Passarelli. Trade smart.